Hello, hello. Good stuff. Hey guys, how are you? Excellent. I was give you guys a little bit of a backstory because it occurred to me as I was back there listening to the exponential talk in reverse. By the way, if you're on the other side of that screen, makes the causation correlation slides a little bit hard to parse, but it was pretty cool. But been in this lovely world of ad tech for a bunch of years. Started my first company, named it Poindexter Systems. It became X+1, incubated the right media, launched MediaMath in 2007. DMP, DSP, bunch of acronyms all put together. I realized I am a super big dork and wanted to take an opportunity here today to try something which I've really lacked in grounding the things that we're doing in things that have been going on for a long time. And I think we sometimes are so interested in the trees that we lose the forest. The goal here was to talk a little bit about how the new world of data-driven marketing is a lot like the old world of data-driven marketing, albeit better. But taking a lot of the same principles and making them technology-driven, obviously data-driven, and here we are, fragmentation of media. People like a lot of logos. I was at Terry's conference, the Luma conference yesterday, and there's an interesting keynote chat between Terry and Randy Rothenberg, and Randy said, the big problem with digital marketing today is all of the VCs and all the money they put into logos. And that is certainly a problem. And then I was sitting next to Mike Kelly, who of sort of AOL fame, and he said, it's not really the venture capitalists' fault. It's actually our fault as consumers, not as marketers, but as consumers, because we're fragmenting our own media, right? Suddenly we start using smartphones. I don't know who here has a tablet. Show of hands for people that use an iPad. Anybody? Great, lots of people. It's our fault. Right? So to a great extent, marketers are out there catching up to consumer behavior, and that's resulting in lots of logos as lots of people come up with their own special secret sauce in terms of how to do something with the new opportunities that digital marketing presents. Is it new audience data? Is it a new ability to target consumers using demographic data or intent data or psychographic data, et cetera? That leads to a lot of complexity, okay? The job of the buyer or the marketer today has really evolved in, I think, a really short amount of time, right? It went from, because you got to do two things, right? You have to be innovative and you have to be scalable, okay? And those two things together are the recipe for doing something really pretty powerful. What you tended to have happen, let's say 10 years ago, digital media, was neither innovative nor scalable, right? It was a lot of work to make it happen. But generally speaking, you were buying 20 or 30 websites. You were really taking the traditional planning and buying process and bringing it into a new medium, but lots of sponsorships, lots of homepage buys, lots of portal buys, et cetera. Last 5, 6, 7 years have really been characterized by a lot more opportunities, right? A lot of different approaches in terms of how one might make digital media work. But none of those approaches really talk to one another. It was very siloed. You had the same amount or more work to make sure that your data partner A talked to your media partner B, that connected to your ad server and your rich media server and your video and your mobile, right? This is a hard job. Anybody here think that managing this is an easy job? That show of hands? Great. Perfect. Great. Can't you do it on your iPads? So it's a problem. And so we looked at our business a little bit, and it's not by no means a pitch. I think this is the programmatic concept in general. If you abstract away all of the fancy buzzwords, it's really trying to make marketing simple. So it's taking innovative things, right? Taking new forms of media, taking new forms of data, taking the tools that you need in order to make better decisions, putting them all together, right? I like to use cooking analogies because I like to eat. Anyone notice? Yeah, that too. Great. So I think of it as like, anyone watch cooking shows, the concept of like, if you're a really good chef, you really want to do it right, you have this mise en place, right? You go out there and you get your ingredients ready ahead of time. and you're all chopped up, you're ready to go, and really at the end of the day, you're assembling a recipe with all of your ingredients sort of laid out ahead of time. If you're a home chef or you're truly an amateur, you're trying to do it all at once, and you miss something and you miss a step, and then you're cooking while you're trying to chop, and it's a disaster. So really, what a marketing OS should do, right? Really, what programmatic more broadly should do, is just assemble those ingredients for you. So when you as the marketer or you as the agency are ready to do something, right? You're ready to eat. You're ready to create this recipe that is, get somebody to your website, get them to purchase something, get them to drive into your store location in order to buy something. What you're really trying to do is assemble all of these ingredients for that user or that consumer or that prospect to get them to take that action. And so really the job of programmatic is to make innovative things scalable. That's it, okay? So that's a really old concept, right? It used to be buried in the sort of literally the bowels of marketing organizations. Started with this concept of one-to-one targeting, right? You started seeing data-driven marketing, really an outgrowth of direct mail, right? Where people were taking offer and creative and targeting lists, that is, pulling, audience segments that made a lot of sense, doing a lot of analytics on it, looking at the data, coming back and changing your offer or your creative or your list on a, let's say a monthly basis when you're ready to do your next direct mailing, right? That concept is the same concept that programmatic is bringing to the world today, right? All it is that idea of a one-to-one targeting, a one-to-one communication, albeit at scale, right? So it's this idea that I'm not going to talk to little pockets of users in different ways and trying to stitch together this tapestry of techniques. It's really trying to put everybody into this soup of media, of data, and be able to understand for every given user, what do I want to say to them, right? What is the next step in this user's journey with my brand? And if you can do that sort of one-to-one or one-to-small segment, you've really done something pretty transformative. It's the new world of data-driven marketing. So old world advertising, pretty painful. Programmatic media buying, it's really trying to make it very simple, to provide that dashboard, to provide the cockpit for the marketer, to really allow all this stuff to happen. And what do you do with that stuff? What do you do to unleash that, that technology? You ask some really, really basic questions, right? So you ask, who am I advertising to? Who are my most likely best prospects? What do I want to say to them, right? Where am I reaching them? And to what channels am I communicating, right? Why am I doing it? What is the objective function? Right? What am I trying to accomplish here? Is it, am I introducing myself to a new prospect for the first time? Am I trying to reinforce a previously made decision to make people feel good about it and drive my net promoter score such that they tell their friends and introduce a new potential customer into the pool? Am I trying to make sure that somebody doesn't attrit? Am I trying to cross-sell? What am I doing? What am I trying to accomplish? Right? Is it net present value? Is it lifetime value? Is it in-store sales? And when am I doing it? Like, not just reach and frequency, but also for this user, like, are they lean forward during the day because they're at the office and they always shop in the afternoon right after lunch? Are they having a lean back experience and they're lying in bed and looking at the iPad while also watching TV, right? So it's really asking these fundamental questions, right? But being able to do something with your data and your data-driven marketing such that you have this one-to-one communication with your consumer, again, at scale. So here's a really good, great example. Here's where using data, contextual data, might inform this decision, right? You're looking at an exercise blog or magazine in this case, and the obvious thing to do when you're obviously looking at exercise stuff is to advertise Gatorade. Makes total sense. Maybe that's not the right decision in this case, right? This person I don't think has shoes on, is certainly leaning back, and doesn't look like they're about to hop out and go for a run anytime soon. This is a passive experience. So maybe taking advantage of data-driven marketing and taking advantage of the fact that you know this user, right? You know that their prior habits. And the right answer is actually they're really in a consumption mode. They're in a lean back mode. And the right answer is to show the boots, lovely boots, actually. I'm pretty sure, and that's the right thing to show, right? So you've got a bit of data, which is context. You decide that that's not the right information at this time. That's not the right thing to move the person down the funnel, and instead you're going to show the creepy, stalky around the web Zappos ad, right? Great. So old world versus new world, same concepts, different scale. So differences, I think, in a lot of cases in degree, not in kind, although the scale is really what makes it, I think, interesting and innovative, right? So traditional media buying, traditional marketing, you tended to have small market sizes, right? Any particular technique or tactic you used could only apply to a small number of folks, right? You could do really cool stuff working with Yahoo and using some of their shopper marketing data, right? But you could only do it on Yahoo, and AOL didn't support the same capabilities, right? You could do something with mobile, right, in terms of geofencing, but you couldn't use that information to inform anything that's happening in social, right? So your market sizes, by definition, were small because the execution on a by-channel basis or by a partner basis was really isolated to that little population, okay? What programmatic strives to do, on the other hand, is normalize all of that, to put it all in one place, right, such that a tactic or a technique that you use in place A can also apply to place B, right? Optimization tended to be retroactive, right? At the end, right? No matter what that was happening sort of within partner or within silo, if you were doing anything across partner, right, really looking at your digital holistically or really looking at your marketing more broadly, Excel was the thing that you were using in order to do optimizations, right? And it was often at a pretty coarse-grained level. It was cut this partner, give it to this partner, right? Reduce price over here. As long as I can get 20% off the CPM rate, maybe I will renew. But the process was very manual and very retroactive, right? It was always a look back on what was happening. What's happening in the new world of programmatic, right? Again, all it is having the mise en place. All it is having all of that data and all of that actionability in one place. It allows you to look at the data and in real time make changes, right? Push a button, 15 minutes later, something happens. Right? That, if you were looking back to a direct marketer and you were talking to the direct mail guys, almost always truly the back office, they would say that thing is amazing. I don't have to wait 4 weeks or 6 weeks to get the results back from the field. And I don't have to wait 3 weeks or 4 weeks in order to change the printing that's about to go out for the next mailing. I don't have to go talk to a new list broker about refining my list, right, and building an offline model with some very, very rough dark market tests that say people east of the Mississippi do this too, and people west of the Mississippi do this other thing too. No, it's all in there. Right? I get to look at the data, I get to push a button, I get to see what happens. Right? Amazing, it's the old concept, just new and much, much larger and more interesting. So you just take a holistic approach, right? You have a tool, right? So really this is the start to the process, have the tool set, make the data available, right? And then really think about how do you apply that stuff, right? I like to say, data everywhere, not a thought to think. Again, I'm a total dork, but it's really, really true, right? If you have this data, but you can't do anything with it, it's called a dashboard, right? And dashboards are great, they're really interesting, but people argue about dashboards. It's like, this is a really interesting insight, what do I do with it? Why am I paying money for a dashboard? I'm not sure how to activate this thing. So you really have to do this marriage of data and media in order to affect change, right? That is where you get results. And again, super simple example, because I always like bringing it back to why people are doing these things. Why are people making technology investments? Why are people redesigning their organizations in order to adapt to a technology-driven, to a data-driven approach to marketing? It's for really simple, obvious reasons, right? There's one way that you can do media buying, and you can say, I want to buy Yahoo homepage because 150% better reach against my target market, and I'm going to buy those folks for $5 CPM. That's one great approach, right? Next great approach is let's do some audience targeting, right? Let's realize why am I buying the Yahoo homepage is because it indexes with people that are digitally more savvy, tends to be slightly higher income, and if I can find people that are digitally savvy and in market for my product and slightly higher income, regardless of where they're at, maybe I'll buy that. That was sort of V2.0. That's audience buying. There you're still paying the same amount, right? So you're still treating everybody as equal. And really what's happening now is this concept of an outcomes-based or a goal-based buying is really what connects all this stuff together. It's really saying, I know what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm answering the questions of who, what, why, when, and how, right? And what it's allowing me to do is really basic stuff, right? What's a really basic thing to do? Well, I have two products. I can sell a suit or I can sell a scarf, right? I see somebody at the other end of the screen, and I have a choice, right? And if I can get them to buy a suit, I think that's wonderful, right? Because I've got great profit margins. It's a higher ticket item. If I can get them to buy a scarf, that's good too, right? But lower profit margins and lower ticket sales. If I have a good sense of what the person at the other end of the screen is more likely to buy and I advertise the right product, I can also pay a different price, right? $5 CPM versus 75-cent CPM. And if I do that smart enough, at scale enough, I can create real value. It's the casino opportunity, right? So casinos tend to have very, very slim edges, right? A casino will generally, 51 to 49% in the house's favor, okay? 51 to 49% when you've got a $10 bet seems like, well, how does a casino make money? At any time somebody leaves the casino, winning jackpots, people, do really well at the craps table, and it's like, wow, that's amazing. And the only reason is because they have slight edges repeated millions and millions and millions of times. And that builds Las Vegas, and that builds Macau, and that's building more stuff in Atlantic City. And that's really what a marketer should think about, is I just need to make a slightly more informed decision each time I understand how I can speak to a consumer. And if I can just do that enough, at enough scale, right, then I can really win, right? I can win objectively, and I can win certainly subjectively relative to my competition. And that's what goal-based buying does, right? It says, what am I trying to accomplish? Who is the person at the other end of the screen? What is the right message to show to them, if any, that will get them to take the next step in their engagement with my brand or my product? That's it. Very simple stuff. And this last point I think is important, which is kind of where we started, right? That is, all of this data fragmentation, all this media fragmentation, it's our fault as consumers, right? So you have to be able to wire up the channels appropriately, because the same consumer is interacting with your brand across all these channels. It's not a different person when they're looking at their tablet versus their TV versus their print magazine versus their digital out of home. It's all the same thing. So if you're at the point of believing that, boy, if I can get all of this stuff wired in one system, then your next job should be, how do I get more stuff into that system, right? What's the last mile, right? And it is the case now that I think digital increasingly is becoming the hub where other channels are becoming the spoke, right? If you went to any marketer and said, I can give you one-to-one communication with a consumer on a magazine, right? This notion of selective binding that was very, very alluring for a little while in the days of magazine printing. If you could actually do that at scale, so that when Joe is leafing through Wired magazine and ad number 4 shows up and it's going to advertise the fact that iPhone 5S is coming out really soon, that's a great idea, right? Of course, it's a crazy concept. No one ever thinks that's going to happen in print, right? But it's getting there. Right? What's happening with e-ink, what's happening with TV, what's happening in non-digital channels, right? I don't know if folks read Wall Street Journal recently, but talking about Vistar Media now wiring up digital out of home, right? And the same concept of programmatic, right? Pretty soon you're coming to the point where 70% of your touch points with consumers will in fact be digital, and will all in fact be hooked up into one place where you can have a conversation with consumers that persists over time. I can sequence it. Right? I can say, here's the right message for television that's followed up with the right message on tablet, that's followed up with the right email in the inbox, right? Such that that dialogue persists and consists of a real understanding of where this consumer is in the relationship to my brand. And so back again to the super basics, right? Because a lot of this stuff, hard to figure out exactly what to do and how to do it. Start with identifying goals, right? It's very, very simple. And encourage yourselves and your organizations, I think, think broadly about goals. Like, one of the things that we struggle with, I think, as marketers is we've been reliant on the channels to tell us what's important to us, right? No one ever said that clicking on a banner ad was a good thing for my brand, right? But because everybody was delivering reports with click-through rates, we kind of said, all right, I guess that's it. Right, I guess that's the right answer. I guess opens is the right thing for email. I guess engagement's the right thing for online videos on tablets. I don't know. The real answer is those things are all proxies, right? They're all proxies to allow for easier a lingua franca, some metric that everyone sort of says, okay, that's a good thing. The right answer is to come up with your own set of right metrics, right? Is it net present value? Is it incremental adds to your customer file, right? What are the things that are ultimately really important? And then spend the time and energy to say, if I can only use that in one place, or if my partners can't take that in to use it and operationalize it programmatically, then it's actually not worth it. Then I'd rather be using the upstream metrics. But if you can work in a world of programmatic and with a marketing OS, and you can really communicate what's important, right? Then you can understand how that particular channel's metrics support your true objective and your true goal, right? So is it click-through, or is it, do I really want an incremental new impression against a good user? And that's the way I'm going to evaluate my media mix. Why? Because if I get in front of a user, I know that they will take the next action, which is a website visit a week later. And that's really what I care about. So spend time identifying goals. It also rationalizes the conversation and the investments within an organization, right? If you can pull up a set of metrics that the CFO agrees with, right, makes it much easier to ask for incremental dollars when you find something that works. Right? Very, very few people will make investment reallocations based on 3% increased engagement. I certainly wouldn't. I don't know what that means, right? If you could tie it to sales, right, great. 2, define your strategy. So the way that people use our platform is they log in, and generally there's a basic set of tactics, right? And from that basic set of tactics, you grow and you get more sophisticated, right? So what's a basic tactic? I'm American Express. I always want to buy on Bankrate, right? I don't need anything fancy to tell me that advertising on Bankrate is a good idea because people go to Bankrate when they're looking to compare credit cards. I may not pay the right price for it, admittedly, but intuitively it makes a lot of sense to advertise there. I may also have another intuition that says audience targeting. If I know somebody's in market for credit cards, that is, they were on Bankrate day before yesterday, and now they're on Yahoo's homepage, also a really good idea to figure out how to target those folks. Right? And then third is let's start thinking about some other things, right? Come up with a really obvious strategy. Boy, centralized retargeting, right? Getting in front of people after they've taken interest and engaged with your brand, getting ads in front of them makes a ton of sense. Centralizing that so you're not bidding against yourself, boy, that makes a lot of sense. These are all very, very obvious strategies. I've got 40 seconds left, and I've got 43 more slides. Who wants to stay? Great, I'm actually kidding, I'm almost done. But this idea of iterative test and control, this information-based strategy where you're using something, it's a very easy platform or system to get into and test. You start simple and you get more complex, right? You don't get overwhelmed with complexity. You try something and you evaluate results and you make changes accordingly. And that's it. You think about something, you look at the data, you refine it, you repeat it, lather, rinse, repeat. It's the old world of data-driven marketing brought into the new world of scalable innovation. And it works. That's it. One of our flowers, one of our favorites. Very good example. Basically came in, said, I want to leverage some offline data for targeting. I want to link those insights together. I want to understand who my best prospects are. I want to understand how Mother's Day and the week leading up to it affects my overall marketing mix. And what people see is actually, real transformative results, right? 300% performance improvements, 400% increase to, scale and reach. This stuff is actually really, really, really transformative, right? Why? Because it's taking very simple, straightforward, obvious, logical things that we do as data-driven marketers and allowing them to operate at scale. That's the programmatic future. Think of it this way. 2007, really, you had 2 channels that were programmatic, right? That were addressable. Really, search and the early days of display through limited supply sources like RTB exchanges and SSPs and whatnot. You fast forward to 2012 to last year, this year, you were looking at most channels now programmatic at scale. And what does 2015 look like? Almost every channel becomes programmatic. This is the world of 70 or 80% programmatic. And really, you're looking at print, maybe terrestrial radio are the last things that you have to do a broadcast push, that you don't have this ability to do a one-to-one communication with your customers in. And that's a very exciting time. The geek in me looks to the, yeah, you got it. That's it. Thanks. We'll be around the back.